Welcome back to Chapter 10. In this video, we're talking about the first of the accessibility guidelines, the Perceivable guidelines. The first one is a text alternative. The W3C defines this as providing text alternatives for any non-text content so that it can be changed into other forms people need, such as large print, braille, speech, symbols, or simpler language. Most of us have already dealt with the image tag, in which case we provide alternative text in case the image can't be found, loaded, or displayed. Hopefully the alternative text is relevant to the image and not just some placeholders such as image 1. Another item to consider is when you're dealing with different websites, such as this one from Western Carolina University. They also have a text-only version of their website for people that can't display all the different items, colors, and functionality of their site, but can still navigate it and find the information needed versus using a text-only edition. The next one is Time-Based Media. The W3C states this obviously as provide alternatives for time-based media. What this means is that if anything is designed on a website, you want to make sure that anything that has a time base, such as a video or an audio segment, has an alternative version. We already covered the different format types when it comes to video and audio tags. But to take that one step further, you should also include audio transcriptions of videos, sign language videos instead of audio segments in case someone can't hear the actual audio. Or, in the case of the example on the left, you have captions available in your video. So in case someone can't see the video, they can hear it for the audio, or in case they can't hear the audio, they can read what is being said. For a quick brief jump back to code, in the video tag, one thing we also can include is a track tag inside the video. This allows the option to include captions and subtitles and even descriptions inside the video tag. But keep in mind that this should not be done unless you have the capability to create and save subtitle formats. This is not a requirement for video tags, but it's a great thing to have in case you have the capability to have different languages or even descriptions when it comes to your videos. Next one is adaptable. When you're designing content, you want to make sure that you follow the same structure. The W3C states this as creating content that can be presented in different ways, for example, similar layout, without losing information or structure. So, when you're designing the content and the structure of the website, you want to make sure you start at the very top, the branding and main navigation. Next, you want to go into the primary content, or the main tag of your field, and then the secondary content, a sidebar, footer, etc. So as long as you start from the top and go to the bottom, physically and with your code, it'll make things easier to load and easier to navigate. When you're also dealing with the adaptable concepts, you want to make sure you deal with ARIA landmark roles. Now, ARIA stands for the Accessible Rich Internet Applications, ARIA. And what this means is that you have different landmark roles for the content and the sections of your website. For example, the items presented on this slide in this table are a great start, and this will be roughly 90% of what you'll be using. There are different ARIA landmark roles that you can use, and you can certainly do your own research and find those. But these will be the majority of the ones you'll use on a daily basis. The banner, navigation, main, complementary, content info, search, form, and application. To add these, all you do is you use the role attribute and you use the specified landmark role to identify what this is going to be on the page. If you have two of the same landmark roles, for example in this case a nav and a div tag, you can use the ARIA-label attribute to specify a unique alternative to what that different navigation area will be. In this case, we have main navigation and external resources. There is no predefined set or class of items you can use to name these things, So use your best judgment, but don't be generic and just say Area 1, Area 2, etc. The last one for Perceivable is making things distinguishable. The W3C guideline is to make it easier for users to see and hear content, including separating foreground from background. Don't rely on colors alone for identification. For example, if you have a field and you say all the red fields are required, well, if someone can't see the color red, then they don't know what is required versus what isn't. So that way it is not a good concept to have. You should also allow for the control of audio and video. We covered this example in the Code With Me videos for the audio tag, but if you use the audio tag and you don't have the controls attribute, then the audio will play in the background with no way to control it. By allowing the ability to have controls, you allow the client to navigate their control of the audio without having to worry about finding where the stupid audio is coming from. You can also allow the setting of audio volume and video volume separate from computer volume. So this way, if someone modifies their computer volume, it modifies everything. But if they don't want to do that, or they can't do that, you want to make sure that they have the capability to navigate the audio setting of audio and video tags on your website. You want to allow text to have the capability to be resized, such as up to 200% or down to 50%. So that way the information can be scaled to the person's visible spectrum. Don't full justify text and limit lines of text to a width of 45 to 75 characters. Basically, when you're dealing with this in CSS, it is a good idea to at least set the minimum width of an item to 66 characters according to experts. So that way, a person filling it out or even proofreading it can know how much information to put in without having to worry about too many lines. Last but not least, once we get into CSS, you'll learn how to have spacing between paragraphs, and a minimum should be 1.5 lines. So this way, it's easier to separate versus just one gigantic block of text. When you're dealing with different colors, you want to make sure that things can be perceived appropriately. For example, this screenshot of the AB Tech website. To most of us, this looks kind of normal. But to those of us that have color blindness, or just to see an example of it, you can see this protenopia, which is red-green color blindness, which means that, well, we don't see the red color, but we can still see some contrast for the actual website itself. On the opposite end, we have deuteranopia, which allows us to see some red, but since we have some green cones in our eyes, it allows us to see some of the color, but not all the red. You have tritanopia, which allows you to see different blue and yellow colors, allows you to see the red and green, but are blind to blue and yellow. So you don't exactly see the best thing when it comes to actual color websites. And last but not least, grayscale. So this is a good example of the site in a grayscale format. You don't see any color at all except shades of gray. Well, if someone is completely colorblind, they don't know what the different colors are. So if you say all the red fields are required and they can't see red, such as this, then it's a bad idea to say all red fields are required, because unless they know distinctively which is red, they don't know which ones are required. That is it for this video. In the next video, we're talking about the operable guidelines. If you have any questions about this or anything in Chapter 10, please send me an email or hit me up on Twitter and I'll get back to you with the best possible answer.